The designated hour having arrived, I call to order this regular meeting of AnselGlink's Quorum Forum podcast, the podcast local governments need to do business. In the chair today, it's me, Erin Monforti, and on the agenda, it's our favorite holiday tradition. Today, we will be reviewing new legislation and case law in anticipation of the quickly approaching new year. But first, let's call the roll. We have an associate at Ansel Glink. She assists local governments with real estate questions, compliance with new laws, election issues, and corporate policy making. She has a furry friend and roommate, her dog Archie, and we're going to ask her about him. Katie Nagy is here.
Present.
Okay, Katie, tell us a little bit about Archie. I don't have any pets, so I must live vicariously through you. Who is Archie? What's his deal? When did you get him?
So Archie is my dog I got during COVID. He's the true definition of a COVID dog. He is 5 years old. He's a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel, and I am just obsessed with him. And Erin, because you don't have a dog, what I'm thinking is we need to get you and your husband Will to watch Archie sometime. Just let me know when, and I'll come drop him off.
I would love to. We could play, I think you're a Sex and the City fan. We could play Charlotte and Harry with the Spaniel, the new Elizabeth Taylor. Don't shake your head. This is good content for the podcast. Well, I would love to babysit Archie. I cat sit for my brother. He has a new cat, and it's the highlight of my week whenever I get to go visit her. Well, Archie sounds like a joy. I know you're traveling for Thanksgiving right now. Is he with you?
Yes, Archie, for the most part, goes everywhere I go. He refuses to be in a carrier, so that vetoes planes and train. Any travel, which is a good amount of travel, is required to do by plane or train. So I drove 12 hours to the beautiful state of North Carolina, and I had Archie in the passenger seat next to me, constantly trying to climb on my lap as I drive. So it's still worth it, though. I love having him with me for the holidays, but it does make the travel a little bit longer.
He's your passenger princess for these long rides.
Yes, he is. And he's not a great first mate, but he's very cute, so I keep him around.
That's great. No, and so since this is our holiday episode, I have to ask, what are you guys getting up to for the holidays? Does Archie like the snow? Do you put a little sweater on him when you go outside? Please tell us all the cute details of your and Archie's wintertime activities.
So that's actually a good reminder that I do need to get Archie a new holiday sweater. He has outgrown his old ones, so adding that to the mental list. And Archie does like snow, but he's so low to the ground that too much, it's just like up to his neck. So we have to be careful of that. And then in Chicago, I mean, I appreciate what they do. They put a bunch of ice out on the sidewalks, but it just kills his little paws. So that's when we have to pull out the little puppy boots, and he's not a fan. And honestly, I'm not either, but it's a necessary evil to get through the winter season.
Yeah, and then when you put the boots on him, all the salt just gets all over his boots, like for us. There's salt all over my clothes all winter, and I wear a lot of black and dark green and navy. Oh, it's a nightmare. Oh, well, happy holidays to Archie. Thanks for sharing.
Of course. Thanks for offering to watch Archie. We have it recorded in perpetuity.
You're holding me to it. My New Year's resolution is to babysit Archie once in a while, whenever you need it. Okay. All right. And we have another associate at Ansel Glink. She was recently admitted to the Illinois bar and is joining our all-star litigation practice group. She hails from Rockford, Illinois, and we're going to ask her about it. Alexis Carter is here.
Present.
Hi, Alexis. So Rockford is commonly referred to as the Forest City or the City of Gardens. Have you ever visited the Clem Arboretum or the Anderson Japanese Gardens?
I have visited the Anderson Japanese Gardens, and they do quite the holiday festival every year. They put out a bunch of lights. It's very pretty.
That's so nice. What is it like? So the Japanese Gardens, is it more like trees and rocks, less greenery, or I've not been to a Japanese garden before.
So they do a little bit of both. There's sort of they have kind of a tree garden area, and then they also have like a pond that you can walk through that's really pretty. There's lots of weeping willows, and it's really pretty gorgeous there.
Oh, so it sounds nice. I'll have to make a trip up there. Can you get to Rockford by train or is it driving only?
I am about to make the trip tomorrow for the Thanksgiving holiday. I actually take the train from Ogilvy, downtown Chicago, to Harvard, Illinois, and then it's about a 30-minute drive into Rockford from there. So
Oh,
it takes about 2 hours total.
perfect. And you
Yeah.
can make your Christmas list while you're on the train. How exciting. All right. And what is your favorite thing to do back home during the holidays? We've got your holiday tradition, locked and loaded on the podcast today, but is there anything special that you like to do in your hometown for the holidays?
Every year my family and I, we go cut down a Christmas tree all by ourselves. And my mom loves to do like a Griswold family Christmas tree where it's this massive, as big as she can get it every year. And so every year we're tasked with finding the biggest Christmas tree that we can find and figuring out how to get it into our house, which some years goes better than others, but it's always a good time.
That's so fun. Yeah, I can imagine that it's one thing to see it where you're going to cut it down and think it's a great idea, and then it's another thing to kind of maneuver it in and out of the car and get it where it needs to go. Oh, that sounds so nice. And then do you guys do like a themed ornaments, like all blue or is it kind of a mishmash of everything you've got?
She's tried to get us to do a themed Christmas tree, but we like to do, the classic family ornaments that we've had forever. And so it's a pretty nostalgic tree usually, but eventually I think that we're going to do a themed tree. So
That sounds exciting. Yeah, well, I look forward to seeing photos of that. Look forward to hearing about your holidays, Katie, your holidays with your family as well. And behind the glass and ready for the busy holiday season, engineer Rick is present, and we have a quorum. Dear listener, we're recording this in late November, right before the long Thanksgiving weekend. It's hard to believe that the holiday season is here and that 2026 is just around the corner. Around this time of year, our office is buzzing with exciting news, holiday traditions, and memories, and holiday music is taking over the airwaves. We're ready to celebrate at Ansel Glink. Katie, Alexis, if you had to pick one holiday tune to listen to all winter, what would it be? We'll start with Katie.
Thank you, Erin. If I could only listen to one holiday tune, it would be My Only Wish This Year by the great Britney Spears. I think I started listening to that song with my mom and sister, when I was 7 years old, maybe, if my memory serves me correctly. So I don't know if a lot of people know that song, but if you don't, you should. So to all the listeners out there, check out My Only Wish This Year by Britney Spears. It is catchy, very catchy.
Right, add it to your queue after listening to this episode. Yeah, for sure. All right, and Alexis, how about you?
Katie, that is a fantastic choice. I love that song, but I might have to go with the Frosty the Snowman, the kind of cult classic. I feel like every year it's just so classic. It's so perfect. Gets me right in the spirit.
That's cute. I was just thinking that what holiday movies I wanna watch this year maybe, and it's like the original Grinch cartoon. So that has to be on my song list because I think it's really funny. Elf, of course, and maybe I'll have to add Frosty the Snowman to that list because they're all good ones. I really like Sleigh Ride, one of the old like classic Christmas songs as well. Katie's giving me a quizzical look. I'm not gonna sing.
Come on. Give the listeners at least 5 seconds.
I'll give a spoken word rendition.
Okay.
Just hear those sleigh bells jingling, ring ting tingling too. Come on, it's lovely weather for a sleigh ride together with you.
Oh, of course. And beautiful. Great job.
You knew
I
that
did
all
know that
along.
one. Is it really just called Sleigh Ride?
That's a really good question. That's what I call it. I think maybe Ansel Glink, that's our next holiday podcast, is a spoken word rendition, although I'm sure that there are, copyright issues with that, so we have to watch out. But thanks, guys. We'll have to put together a holiday playlist that everyone can listen to right after this episode. And we're gonna get started with the kind of the heart of our episode here. We're really excited to celebrate the holidays with all of our listeners by revisiting a Quorum Forum podcast tradition. This year, Ansel Glink attorneys will be sharing with listeners new laws and recent case decisions which may impact our friends in local government. As in years past, the entire firm was split into teams. But this year, we've expanded the roster substantially, and it was time to make adjustments for a three-way battle of the wits. Joining Team Lou and Team Marv is the newly founded Team Stewart. Our teams honor Lou Ansell, Marvin Glink, and Stuart Diamond, to whom we all owe so much for their pioneering work in local government law. Katie, Alexis, and I, as team leaders, stoked some healthy competition to see which team could leave the most messages on our Quorum Forum hotline. The team with the most messages will win the favor of the entire Quorum Forum team for 2026. Clearly, the stakes could not be higher. Okay, it's time to find out which team will be victorious. Let's go to the Quorum Forum hotline and hear from Ansel Glink attorneys about their favorite holiday traditions and memories, as well as new cases and legislation that listeners should be aware of heading into 2026.
Hi, everyone. This is Julie Tappendorf reporting for Holiday Duty. I wanted to let you know about Senate Bill 243, which passed both of the Illinois houses in the recent veto session. If the bill is signed by the governor, it would amend a bunch of provisions of Open Meetings Act and FOIA. A couple of the noteworthy amendments include prohibiting all public bodies from meeting on election day, so at any of the regular election days, excluding junk mail from the definition of public records in FOIA. Also, if signed by the governor, it would allow public bodies to require FOIA requesters to verify they're human. I think this is a nod to the increasing AI FOIA requests many of you may be receiving. There are other nuggets in this legislation that could be of interest to you, especially those of you that serve as the FOIA officers. You can find a more detailed summary on my blog, Municipal Minute. I posted on October 16th. Right now, the bill is awaiting the governor's signature, and if it's signed, it'll take effect January 1st of 2026. So stay tuned on that one. And last, my favorite holiday memory would have to be when we were stationed in Hawaii. My kids were about maybe 2, 5, and 5 years old, and we took them to Waikiki Beach to watch Santa come in on a surfboard. And if you haven't been there before, this is a very special Hawaii holiday tradition. My youngest son was very worried at the time that Santa wouldn't be able to make it to our house, and we lived on military base a few miles from the beach. We assured him that Santa would find him, and of course we know that Santa did. Thank you very much, and happy holidays, everybody.
Thanks so much for calling in, Julie. This is a true New Year, New Law update. As Julie mentioned, if Senate Bill 243 is signed, it will go into effect on New Year's Day. One provision of the bill that I would like to call attention to is that which amends certain provisions of the Freedom of Information Act regarding the prominent display of certain materials in the administrative offices of a public body. While FOIA generally does not require the creation of new records, Section 4 of the Act lists information that must be on display, including a brief description of the public body, a summary of purpose, a block diagram of the functional subdivisions of the public body, the number and location of its offices, and FOIA request directions, among other items. Currently, these pieces of information must be prominently displayed in the physical offices of the public body and online if the public body maintains a website. If Senate Bill 243 is passed, however, public bodies with websites would only be required to post the information online. This amendment may be important for our public bodies who have experienced or anticipate experiencing a First Amendment audit, during which citizen journalists often request items required to be displayed or posted under Section 4 of FOIA. And thanks, Julie, for sharing such a great holiday memory with us. I dream of being anywhere remotely as warm as Hawaii for Christmas. Maybe next year. Maybe we'll record this episode of the Quorum Forum podcast remote from Hawaii next year. I think my co-hosts would agree. That sounds like a good idea.
Hello, Quorum Forum Hotline. This is Daniel J. Bolin calling in, the host of Ansel Glink's Quorum Forum podcast, one of the hosts anyway. The podcast Local Governments Need to Do Business. Wanted to just call in about an important development concerning local government authority and urban planning, and of course, to share a little bit of holiday cheer. I'm calling in about the People Over Parking Act, which is part of a large mass transit bill known as Senate Bill 2111. If signed by the governor, the act is set to take effect on June 1st, 2026. The crux of the People Over Parking Act is that it restricts local authority to require minimum off-street automobile parking near public transit. With limited exceptions, a unit of local government may not impose or enforce any minimum automobile parking requirements on a development project that is located within 1/2 mile of a public transportation hub or 1/8 mile of a public transportation corridor. These could be like metro stations, they could be CTA stations, they could be bus corridors as defined in the Act. This legislation serves as a limitation on home rule units, meaning a home rule unit may not regulate minimum automobile parking requirements in a manner inconsistent with this Act. And while minimum automobile parking requirements would be generally prohibited near transit under the Act, local governments would retain the authority to regulate other aspects of parking and development, including maximum parking. A unit of local government is not prevented from enacting or enforcing local laws that establish a maximum parking requirement on street parking. The Act does not prevent a unit of local government from regulating access to on-street parking. Bicycle parking. The Act does not restrict a unit of local government from enacting or enforcing local laws that establish a minimum parking requirement for bicycles, including electric-assisted bicycles, and regulation of voluntarily provided parking. If a developer chooses to provide off-street automobile parking voluntarily, the local government may require parking spaces to be made available for car share vehicles or shared with the public, or made available only for a fee. A local government may not require voluntarily provided parking to be provided free of charge. Now, the Act would not apply if the requirements conflict with a contractual agreement or approved site plan that was executed or approved on or before the effective date of the Act. However, the prohibition would apply to any amendment or extension to the contractual agreement or approved site plan if that amendment or extension increases automobile parking requirements. The Act does not define contractual agreement or approved site plan, so local governments should consult their attorneys about whether the Act would apply. Now, so based on this new law, local governments will need to evaluate areas near transit that could be affected by this new Act and review their current zoning regulations. Now, for my favorite holiday memory, it truly speaks to the importance of local government law in the holiday season. I remember one bright, snowy Christmas morning when I received the gift that would change my life forever. It was my first podcast microphone under the tree, and later that day, gathered around the fireplace with my family, ready to enjoy the festive atmosphere, I knew exactly what needed to happen. I turned off their favorite holiday music so we could listen to Ansel Glink's Quorum Forum podcast. We sat there enjoying the legal updates and discussing new laws for local governments, maintaining unbreaking eye contact the entire time. It's the kind of meaningful tradition that ensures we ring in the new year and gavel out the old one, fully informed and prepared for the challenges ahead in local government. I wish everyone a legally compliant and peaceful new year. Keep calling the hotline at 312-604-9185. Bye!
Thanks for calling in, Dan. Dan's voicemail outlines the new People Over Parking Act that, if signed into law, will become effective on June 1st, 2026. As Dan explained, under this law, local governments will be prohibited from setting requirements for mandatory off-street parking for automobiles in areas located near a public transportation hub or corridor. As an example, a municipality would not be able to set minimum off-street parking requirements for a new commercial development project located within 1/2 mile of a metro station, but the municipality would be permitted to regulate maximum parking requirements, on-street parking, bicycle parking, including e-bike parking, and regulate voluntarily provided parking. As for your favorite holiday memory, the hosts of this episode of the Quorum Forum podcast respect and appreciate your dedication to local government podcasting during the holiday season. Podcast microphones are, of course, the equipment that podcasts need to do business. As always, we look forward to ringing in the new year with new and exciting episodes.
Hi, this is Missy Hall, and I'm calling in to talk about several Leave Act amendments and one new Leave Act that was passed this year. First, we have amendments to the Family Military Leave Act, which has been renamed to just the Military Leave Act and introduces paid leave for qualified employees to participate in military funeral honors detail, allows for paid leave up to 40 hours annually or 8 hours per month. There's also amendments to VESA, the Victims Economic Security and Safety Act, which provides protected leave for victims or family members who are victims of domestic or sexual violence, gender violence, and any other crime of violence. The amendments permit the use of employer-issued devices to record incidents of violence and give employees access to any digital documents or communications related to the incident. And that's effective January 1. There are also amendments to the Nursing Mothers in the Workplace Act, where employers must compensate break time used to express breast milk at the employee's regular rate of pay for up to 1 year post-birth without requiring paid leave usage. That's effective January 1. There's also amendments to the Blood and Organ Donation Leave Act, which now extends eligibility to part-time employees. Under the Act, full-time and part-time employees who have been employed for 6 months are eligible for 1 hour every 56 days to donate blood and up to 10 days of leave per year for organ donation. Part-time employees should be compensated based on the daily average pay over the previous 2 months. That's effective January 1. And the new act is the Family Neonatal Intensive Care Leave Act. Employers with 16 or more staff must provide job-protected, unpaid leave for parents with a child who is hospitalized in the NICU, and that is effective June 1, 2026. And my favorite holiday tradition, or one of my favorite holiday traditions, is that I make my great-grandmother's date nut bread every year, and I used to visit her and make it with her, and then when she passed, I took up the tradition of making it and shipping it off to my aunts and uncles across the country, and it's a family favorite. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Missy, for calling into the Quorum Forum podcast. Missy's voicemail is a great reminder for public bodies to stay appraised of new employment laws, or for public bodies to ensure that they check in with their attorneys regarding any new employment laws. The Illinois legislature is frequently passing new laws that impact both employees and employers. Missy's voicemail provides for 4 new employment laws in 2026 alone that will become new effective law in the state of Illinois. Many employment-related laws provide for employer penalties if employers do not comply with the employment laws. For example, under the Family Neonatal Intensive Care Leave Act that Missy discussed in her voicemail, employers who violate any provision of the Act will be subject to a civil penalty for each affected employee in an amount not to exceed $5,000. So, in addition to complying with Illinois law, the penalty for not complying with Illinois law is a great incentive for public bodies to ensure that they are keeping up with any new employment laws that are becoming effective law in the state of Illinois. Thank you so much for your voicemail, Missy. Baking is a great holiday tradition. It's a great way to keep family recipes alive. Hope you have a great holiday season.
Hi, this is Kathy Kunkel. One decision that I think municipalities need to be aware of is the recent Illinois Supreme Court decision in Bittner versus City of Pekin. It's at 2025 IL 131039. And in that case, the Illinois Supreme Court held that municipalities may withhold employment taxes from payments made to injured employees under the Illinois Public Employees Disability Act, which is at 5 ILCS 345/1 sub B. And those payments are usually referred to as Section 1B payments. Prior to Bittner, municipalities usually paid gross pay without any deductions for employment taxes for those Section 1B payments. The Bittner decision is significant for municipalities because allowing withholding of taxes will encourage timely return to work by employees who are able to work, right? The flip side of that is prior to Bittner, municipalities who didn't withhold employment taxes from the Section 1B payments, that inherently encouraged employees to not return to work even if they were able. So it shifts that dynamic, and I think municipalities really need to be aware of that holding. My favorite holiday tradition or memory, it's both I suppose, is receiving stockings from Santa. Happy holidays!
Thanks for calling in, Kathy. It sounds like the Bittner opinion has wide-ranging implications for municipalities and other units of government with employees who may be injured in their line of work. I'd like to share another recent opinion concerning line-of-duty injuries and pension benefits. In Zion Police Department versus Illinois Workers' Compensation Commission, a detective in a city police department filed an application for workers' compensation benefits for bilateral wrist injuries he claimed he sustained while performing an exercise during a firearms training event. The city argued that the employee's worker compensation claim was barred due to a prior decision by a pension board that had denied the employee's request for line-of-duty disability benefits and awarded him non-duty disability benefits for the wrist injuries. Both the arbitrator and the Illinois Workers' Compensation Commission ruled in favor of the employee, finding that the issues litigated before the pension board were different than those presented in the workers' compensation case. The city appealed. On appeal, the Circuit Court reversed the Workers' Compensation Commission's decision and held that the employee was collaterally estopped from relitigating the issues relating to his wrist injuries, where that issue had already been decided by the pension board when it found that his injuries were not caused by the training exercise. The employee appealed to the appellate court, which agreed with the Circuit Court that the employee was bound by the pension board's decision that his wrist injuries were not duty-related, which he did not further appeal. As a result, the employee did not qualify for workers' compensation benefits for the wrist injuries. While not addressing the same income tax issues involved in Bittner, the Zion case shows the cross-applicability of certain legal concepts in different contexts, such as line-of-duty determinations. Whether the public policy in Bittner, which was to incentivize return to work, is picked up in other cases and across different areas of law will be interesting to see. As for your favorite holiday tradition, count me in. I'm a big fan of little gifts. Nail polish, candy, socks, all perfect for stuffing stockings. I sure hope Santa brings you all of your favorite treats this year.
Hi, this is Alexandra Cambiazo. I am an associate at Ansel Link, and I wanted to talk to you today about Public Act 104-0364. That Public Act amends the Interstate Mutual Emergency Aid Act to provide a new section which provides for emergency aid to bordering states. So this section provides that any public safety agencies, that would include fire departments, fire protection districts, municipal police departments, or public or private contractors of such agency, may help any other public safety agency in the state or in a bordering state at the time of a disaster. And a disaster would include things like fire, flood, tornado, or a hazardous material incident. So this is really great for our clients to know that are in municipalities that border other states. I know we have some that border Indiana, some that border Wisconsin, might even have some over bordering Iowa. So this is really important for all of you to know that in emergencies, fire, floods, tornadoes, or hazardous material incidents, that we can provide aid to bordering states, and those bordering states could potentially provide aid to us in some sort of situation as well. Now, turning back to me, we've been asked to share our favorite holiday tradition or memory. I would have to say that my favorite tradition is watching A Christmas Carol, that old Charles Dickens book, which has been redone about 1 million times with 1 million different actors. And one of my family's traditions is to watch as many different versions of A Christmas Carol as we can as we lead into the Christmas and holiday season. So I would encourage everybody to try to meet up with their family and friends and maybe watch A Christmas Carol and decide which version is their favorite. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you, Alex, for calling into the Quorum Forum podcast. Alex's voicemail is a great reminder that we should all be lending a helping hand to our neighbors in 2026. The Interstate Mutual Emergency Aid Act helps to extend a jurisdiction's emergency response capabilities by allowing local government bodies to enter into a mutual aid agreement with units of government from another state. As Alex explained, this newly enacted provision provides that any public safety agency may provide assistance to any other public safety agency in the state or in a bordering state at the time of a disaster. As for your favorite holiday tradition, I always love a classic holiday movie to get in the spirit of things. Every year, my family watches It's a Wonderful Life while we wrap presents, and it's one of the traditions I look forward to most. Enjoy your holiday.
Hello, Quorum Forum Hotline. My name is Alexis Carter, and I'm an attorney here at Ansel Glink. Today, I'd like to talk to our listeners about utility poles. Public Act 104-0097 amends the Illinois Municipal Code and the Illinois Counties Code to authorize municipalities and counties to use utility poles and public rights-of-way for public safety purposes, including, but not limited to, the placement of public safety equipment. Starting January 1st, 2026, state agencies by statute and local governments by ordinance may establish a permitting process governing this use. However, any fee charged by the owner of a utility pole or right-of-way must be at the lowest rate charged by the owner and cannot exceed the owner's costs. So, if you start seeing public safety equipment pop up on these utility poles, now you know why. My favorite holiday tradition is baking bread with my mom. Last year we made over 18 loaves of cinnamon bread, and this year we're just trying to beat that record. Happy holidays.
Thanks, Alexis. One important exception to note here, starting January 1st, 2026, counties and municipalities may place public safety equipment on utility poles and rights-of-way, but this equipment cannot be located on or interfere with electric distribution systems, worker safety zones, or electric supply zones. All use of public safety equipment in these areas must comply with applicable codes or regulations that may concern public safety. As for your favorite tradition, there is nothing like holiday baking that gets everyone into the holiday spirit. Maybe you and Missy should bring some of those baked goods into the Ansel Glink office. Thanks so much for calling in, Alexis.
Hi, everyone. Happy holidays. This is Erin Monforti, an attorney at Ansel Glink, calling to participate in our annual tradition of leaving voicemails to talk about new laws and cases for the new year. I am calling to report on a recent legislative amendment. Public Act 104-56 amends the Illinois Local Library Act to require public libraries to maintain a supply of opioid antagonists, commonly known as Narcan or naloxone, in an accessible location within libraries. Authorized personnel may administer the medication to anyone they believe in good faith to be experiencing an opioid overdose on library grounds, in the immediate vicinity of the library, or at a library-sponsored event. Libraries must also ensure that during operating hours, at least one person is present who's received training in how to recognize and respond to an opioid overdose, and training in how to administer the antagonist. Health departments in any county where a library is located may provide a supply of opioid antagonists to the library, and a library and authorized personnel are immune from liability for the administration of an opioid antagonist such as Narcan under this bill, except in cases of willful or wanton misconduct. I wanted to bring attention to two key items involved with this legislation. So first, the Public Act only amends the Local Library Act, and there appears to be no corresponding legislation to amend the Public Library District Act. So while the bill states that the new requirements apply to all libraries open to the general public in Illinois, the Local Library Act only covers public libraries established under its terms and not library districts. This raises a question, as to the scope of the bill's application. We've, found that it only applies to the local libraries, but we anticipate some amendatory legislation to revise the Public Library District Act as well. Second, the act provides that public libraries may obtain an approved opioid antagonist from any lawful source, but it doesn't reference any funding to cover the cost of medication or training for library personnel. Absent any further legislation, grants, or opportunities for funding, local libraries may need to be prepared to cover the costs associated with compliance, which at this stage could be significant given that Narcan, naloxone, and similar medications do run a certain cost for anyone who purchases them. So we encourage local libraries to reach out with questions and to, explore options for obtaining training and medication to comply with the new law's requirements. As for my favorite holiday memory or tradition, I really enjoy decorating my Christmas tree with my husband. It's always exciting to kind of go out and pick out a tree. I grew up in a artificial tree household, but since getting married and moving in, I have someone who insists on a real tree, so it's always fun to go pick one out and put our ornaments on. I wish everyone a very happy holiday season, safe travels, and we'll see you in the new year.
Thanks, Erin, for calling in. The new law you discussed is very interesting and follows a pattern of the state's efforts to increase access to opioid antagonists in public spaces. For example, in 2024, the Illinois Department of Public Health issued a standing order to allow school nurses and other trained personnel to administer naloxone and other opioid antagonists to students in the event of an opioid overdose. Libraries interested in learning more about Public Act 104-0056 can visit the website of the Reaching Across Illinois Library System, which has a memo regarding the act and its implications, authored by our very own Julie Tappendorf and Erin Monforti. As for your favorite tradition, it sounds like you have your hands full decorating for the holiday season. One of my favorite things about working in downtown Chicago is getting to see all of the beautiful decorations for the holidays, including those in our very own building.
And the results of our competition. My heart just grew 3 sizes. We have a tie between Team Lou and Team Marv this year. Congratulations and thanks to everyone who called into our show. We hope everyone at Ansel Glink has a fantastic holiday season filled with plenty of wonderful moments and memories that you can share on next year's episode. Katie, Alexis, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm glad we were able to start celebrating the holidays a little early together. However, as you know, this is a regular meeting, so we must have public comment.
Okay, Lauren, a resident from Peru, Illinois, wrote into the Quorum Forum podcast to ask whether public bodies can charge her for any copies of electronic records she receives pursuant to the Freedom of Information Act request.
Thanks, Alexis. And thank you, Lauren, for writing into the Quorum Forum podcast. Section 6A of the Freedom of Information Act provides, in part, that when a person requests a copy of a record maintained in an electronic format, the public body shall furnish the requested document in the electronic format specified by the requester, if feasible. Section 6A further provides that a public body may charge FOIA requesters for the actual cost of purchasing the recording medium, whether a disc, diskette, tape, or other medium. However, except to the extent that the General Assembly expressly provides statutory fees applicable to copies of public records when furnished in a paper format shall not be applicable to those records when furnished in an electronic format. The Public Access Counselor recently issued a PAC opinion 25-013 that is very relevant to Lauren's inquiry. In this PAC opinion, a FOIA requester sought an electronic copy of an incident report. The municipality denied the request and directed the requester to contact the City Police Records Department to purchase the report at a cost of $5 for residents or $10 for non-residents. The Public Access Counselor, PAC, reviewed the municipality's denial and found that under Section 6A, the Illinois legislature had not expressly authorized a statutory fee in excess of the cost of the recording medium for electronic copies of incident reports, and that it was feasible for the city to disclose the report in the electronic format was sought by the requester without the need to purchase a recording medium. Therefore, the PAC determined that the city was prohibited under the Freedom of Information Act from assessing the requester a fee for disclosing the electronic copy of the incident report.
Thanks so much, Katie, and thanks again to Lauren for writing into the podcast. We always welcome questions and concerns revolving around local government, and I'm sure we may get some more in the new year. And that brings us to the Department of Public Works. Registration is now open for the 2026 IAPD IPRA Soaring to New Heights Conference from January 29th to January 31st, 2026 in Chicago. Ansel Glink attorneys are very excited to join attendees to discuss a wide variety of issues, including social media, controversial park uses, the importance of park policy manuals, and so much more. We look forward to seeing you there. Also, in the new year, Ansel Glink looks forward to participating in all of our favorite events and conferences, including the APA-IL State Conference, the Illinois Library Association Conference, the Township Officials of Illinois Conferences and Trainings, and so much more. Keep an eye on our blog, Municipal Minute, for updates and more information. If it's local government, you can almost count on Ansel Glink being there. All right, thank you, Katie and Alexis, for joining us today. The weather outside is getting a bit frightful, but thanks to you, things are looking merry and bright heading into the holiday season in 2026. Any final thoughts before we adjourn?
I will just say happy holidays to our listeners. Erin, thank you for always being such a great host of the Quorum Forum podcast. And Alexis, welcome to the Quorum Forum podcast. We're very happy to have you.
Thank you. I'm going to second that. Happy holidays to everyone, and I'm glad to be on the Quorum Forum.
Wonderful. Our New Year's resolution is to have more folks coming on the podcast, more topics to discuss. And before we go, we want to remind everyone to subscribe and leave us a review wherever podcasts are heard. We prefer good reviews, and it's always good to get a nice gift around this time of year. All we want for Christmas is a nice review from our lovely listeners. So take the time when you're in the holiday spirit, maybe you're setting up your tree, and just leave us a review. Email us your questions and show ideas at podcast@anselglink.com and visit us online at quorumforum.anselglink.com. Can I please get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? The ayes have it. We'll see you next time on Ansel Glink's Quorum Forum podcast.